Hi everybody, welcome to the Screw the System channel. I'm here in St James's Park with a very special guest, a guy called Johnny Berba. I'm here to interview him about his transition to pursuing his passion. Before we do so, it's probably worth me explaining how I met Johnny, or how I came across him. It's actually through somebody who watches my YouTube channel and his as well, a guy called Luca Cavinciani. So shout out to you, Luca. He introduced me to Johnny and his work, and I became interested in his YouTube channel, contacted him. He very graciously agreed to do this interview. So I'm here today to talk to him about how he made the transition into being a full-time coach and YouTuber, and has a lot of online courses and coaching programs as well. So we're going to find out about that today. First of all, welcome here, Johnny. And just wanted to start to ask you first, Johnny, you've got a successful channel now. It's called Johnny Berba Coaching. I think over 32,000 subscribers. I'm interested in what you were doing, say, 10 years ago.
Well, 10 years ago I was in a bad place. I've got to go back now. I'm 35, when I was 25. I think when I was 25 I was unemployed.
Yep.
I was sort of, doing a little bit of jobs here and there, in between claiming benefits, and then, I might have a job here, lose my job. So I was in a bad place. I was struggling with anxiety and depression, especially with people, social anxiety. And I was trying to sort of decide if I wanted to excel as a boxer. I always wanted to be a boxer, but was sort of 80% committed and 20% not.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about, what am I going to do to make money and stuff. So, I mean, to be straight, I wasn't in a good place back then.
And then, so obviously now you're running a YouTube channel, you're doing a lot of coaching as well. You seem to be loving your life, really enjoying what you're doing. What changes occurred in you? What led you to get onto YouTube, to start making videos, and then to start coaching people?
My one started off from being really frightened and being ashamed that I was scared. And then because I was so afraid of people and life, or anything, it stopped me from doing normal things that most people would do. So most normal people would have a job, they'd have a girlfriend, they'd have a social circle. I didn't really have all those things to a certain extent, because I suffered with mental illness. And I didn't realise back then I was struggling with mental illness. I just thought I was a person who was just insecure, shy. But I didn't realise I was battling with a mental illness, not to make excuses. So being bullied by a voice all my life of not being good enough and being ashamed, contradictory, having a feeling in me that I always knew a part of me was good enough.
Right.
That battle in me was ruining my life. I didn't realise that there was a simple solution that was so simple that no one around me would believe me, because everything seemed to be intellectualised around me on you need to get a job, you need to do this, you need to be qualified. And I realised that, well, that wasn't actually true for me. I needed to be qualified in knowing how to deal with fight or flight and anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
So courage was what I was lacking. I got sick and tired of being beaten down by life, by my own voices, by people around me, society. I started to face my fears.
Yeah.
And miraculously, as soon as I started to confront my fears, it was almost like, well, this has been the solution to my problems.
Yeah.
I've not been taking action.
Right.
I'm not talking to people because I'm scared of them, I'm shy. I'm not talking to women. I'm not going to job interviews. I'm terrified of going into a gym. I was afraid of everything. So when you're scared of everything and you start to face it, you become extremely confident.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was showing Johnny my book beforehand, Escape the System. I got a chapter in that, which one of them is about how does a person grow? And I come up with the idea that fundamentally there's only really two ways. One is coming out of your comfort zone and facing your fears, exactly what you're talking about. The other is what I think is pushing through the pain barrier. When you're experiencing pain, whether that's physical or mental, you don't feel like you can go to the next level, but you've got to push yourself through. So it's interesting that you essentially turned your life around by facing your fears. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. And I agree, and you say it's a simple, people intellectualize it, and you're right, it's a simple solution and not enough people do it. So as you started to do this, and going from being unemployed, not having a girlfriend, you start facing your fears. I assume if you guys check out Johnny's videos, which I highly recommend you to do, a lot of them at the start are about pick up with girls, meeting girls. And he's kind of had a transition with that as well, which we'll talk about. But so I guess you were going out meeting more people, and as you started to do that, what then gave you the idea to go on YouTube or film some of your what you were doing?
Can I answer it really quickly, right? The terror that I had of talking to him was so bad it paralysed me. I used to stutter around women, I couldn't make eye contact, I physically couldn't do it. I met someone down the gym many years ago. I saw this guy talking to him and he inspired me. We became friends naturally. I didn't know we were going to have friends. He said to me two things. One, he said to me, because I'm struggling, he said, you have got it and you are good enough, you just got to go and do it and try. And I said, well, what do I say? And he said, just go and ask him out and just see if you get through with a girl. That was his language he used. Because I grew up in the council estate, so did he. So I tried that, and when I first asked a girl out, she rejected me and I failed on society standards, but I succeeded.
Yeah.
Because I faced the fear.
Done it,
and the glory and the satisfaction and that relief from doing it made me feel so good about myself. I thought, I'll do it again, and again, and again, and again. And as I kept going, I fell my way to success. I eventually went from a guy who was a virgin until 21, who used to regularly pay for escorts. You know, I was in negative lifestyle. I broke out of that. And I'm trying to not be arrogant, I just want to be truthful with people, to probably, I would say, one of the best guys on planet Earth at meeting women in the situation of public on the street.
Yeah.
So I practiced it for 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
I've practiced it for 13 years. And what I realised took me less than 13 years. When I conquered the fear, and conquering fear doesn't mean that you're not scared. I'm still frightened of everything I was scared of before. I just deal with it in a much better way now. I'm more balanced in who I am, and I've got more experience. I can relax more. So the confidence that going out and speaking to women gave me, quit my job, set my own business up, started putting videos out on YouTube, started doing public talks. I just went mental in everything, and everything worked from the same truth.
That's great. There's just to try and because in my other book, which I showed you as well, which is coming out next year, called Do the Work You Love, I talk about 3 paths to pursuing your passion. So the first is the adventurous path, where you just kind of jump into it. You cut everything, you quit your job and kind of go for it. Second is the strategist path, which is where it's pretty much what I followed. You build up, work on the side. So I do my tennis coaching, I do my hypnotherapy, helps support me, then write my books. And the third is the grinder's path, which basically means just staying in your day job with the limited time you've got, trying to do as much as you can. From what you're telling me, it sounds like you, in my terms, you'd have followed the adventurous path. You quit your job and just went for it.
What you just said was pure truth, and it helped me to articulate my story to help with your guys or viewers. You are right. I will say to people, as I quit my job, I used that job to facilitate what Alan Watts would say, my art, until I got paid for my art.
Yeah.
So I was in an office job, and it wasn't for me. And then I quit, I think, after a month later. And I only had the money that they paid me, £1,200. I had no savings.
Wow.
So I jumped in the deep end.
Yep.
And I didn't realise I knew this until you brought this out of me today. Every time I've jumped in the deep end in my life and faced terror, amazing things come from it. Every single time. And I'm able to help other people with that as well.
I had the same sort of thing. I find, although listening to your story, I don't think I'm as big a risk taker as you, but I find I've never failed from taking risks. I've failed because I've hesitated and I've procrastinated, or I've doubted myself. That's what held me back. Not taking a risk and actually doing something. So sometimes I think, for the viewers who are watching this now, it really is important to take those risks sometimes, to challenge yourself. It's worked for Johnny, and it's also worked for me. So I think that's something to consider. So you were taking all these steps, you were going out, talking to a lot more people. Actually, before we go on to, I just want to talk about your coaching as well, but before we do that, something interesting for me when I was watching your videos, but you wouldn't consider yourself like a conventional pickup artist. You have a slightly different approach, and you mention it, sort of natural approach. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that, what that involves.
Well, I think I can understand. I never considered myself a pickup artist. I definitely ain't now. It's not who I am. obviously when I started, I'm not the same person I am now. I've grown.
Yeah.
I was just really a guy that was interested in meeting women. Pickup happened to be around. I dabbled in it. I learned some things from it, and what I learned was it weren't for me.
Right.
So everyone's got their own choice, because it weren't honest. I weren't being myself. And when I started practicing being honest and being myself, I got great results with women in my life. So I hope that answers your question. I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but I know people are welcome to have their opinion about me. That's fine. I'm used to that. But it's just like, it's almost like I just suppose people come from different places. So you can go talk to a girl now, and I can go and talk to her, and someone can be watching and go, well, I just saw Joe talk to a girl, and I saw Johnny talk to a girl, and they're both doing the same thing. And you go, I could go, no, we're not. I could say, I'm practicing my social practice, I'm practicing spirituality. You could go, well, I want to go and get a number, I want to have a great time, and I want to love making my girlfriend. So a movement can look the same, and it is the same, but it's coming from a different place.
Yeah.
And that's the place I was coming from, and that's the place that I aspire to teach and aspire to teach now.
Yeah, it's the reason I asked, because I mean, your and my stories are quite similar in the sense that I had a lot of trouble with girls 10 years ago, 15 years ago, late teens, early 20s, very similar. And I got interested in a couple of books, The Game by Neil Strauss and The Mystery Method, and I was reading about that a lot. And I pretty much came to the same conclusion as you, that it wasn't genuine. I mean, there were some kind of tips you could take from it and use to improve your communication skills, but it was almost like you were playing a role. And that's never going to work long term, really, I think, because at some point you've got to stop playing the role.
Yeah.
If you stop playing the role, then you're left with somebody else. But as something you were mentioning is interesting, because I think society makes us play a role in a way. The system makes us play a role. And it's great, it's refreshing to hear you say that as soon as you stop playing that role, that's when success occurred for you, both in terms of meeting people and with your own business as well.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you said, and it's so truthful that society, in whatever way we say, conspiratorial or consciously, it does teach us to be fake. It does teach us to be dishonest with people. In the business world, self-help. So I chose, and obviously no one's perfect, I'm not. I'm still working on not falling into my many roles that we all have, being more authentic and genuine, which is the ongoing message I'm trying to get across to people and teach, and I'm working on those standards myself. So I think, back to what we were saying before this interview, and you told me about your writing and your books, what's your truth? Even though my truth's brilliant, that might not be your truth. So I also teach people to find their truth, and their truth it shouldn't be the same as Johnny Berba's truth. Can be similar in the principles, like me and you are going to have a similar story. Mm-hmm. That's why, for whatever reason, we've come here today. There's something attractive about both of us to share, but there's going to be some subtle differences.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always tried to explain all these complexities within who I am, what I'm teaching, what I'm trying to say as an artist, a teacher, a mentor, a writer, a speaker, a human being, a man who's trying to improve himself, and and I've got lots of. I've got friends in the pickup community, so I'm not having a go at it, but it's just not for me. And I appreciate the courage that these guys have got to do what they're doing. But I don't resonate with it, and I don't live my life on those values.
I can see what you're saying. So it's been very interesting talking to Johnny so far. I'm going to take a very short break and kind of come back and speak to you a bit more about your coaching and what you're doing now with the various programs you run. So join us in part 2. Okay guys, we're back with part 2 of my interview with Johnny Berba from Johnny Berba Coaching YouTube channel. And the first, we sort of discussed what he was doing prior to launching his YouTube channel and coaching. And this one, we're going to explore a bit more about his coaching and what he's doing at the moment, today. So Johnny, I was doing my own research in you, and I saw a 6-week transformation program. I was wondering if you could tell me and the viewers a little bit about that.
It's not mine, wrong guy. Well, for a while actually, I stopped coaching for a while. I'm just getting back to coaching. I had a break. I won't go into that, maybe another conversation. So I've been coaching for almost 8 years, but I had a break for 1.5 years, so I've just got back into it again, which is why people didn't see me for a while and follow me. So, sorry, original question. So the 6 weeks program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created that program 6 years ago, and I think basically I was meeting with another life coach. We were doing something together, and he told me about his program. He gave me the idea because I was sort of coaching people, and I didn't really have a name program. He said, "Why don't you call it a 6 weeks program?" I like the name.
Yeah.
And I've found, not just a fancy name, 6 weeks is a great amount of time to change someone's life.
Right.
Sometimes someone needs 6 months, but there's something, like I'll just say to your viewers, do anything you're scared of for 6 weeks. The confidence you'll gain.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it created from, and it seemed to work for people.
Sure.
It flows naturally, and so that's it.
What I'm also interested in, did the coaching come before the YouTube channel, or did the coaching come out of the YouTube channel?
Everything came. I did everything free at the start.
Yeah.
So the coaching came. Yeah, the coaching came off the back of the YouTube
Off the
videos.
YouTube channel.
My whole business model, happy to share it with people, nothing to hide. My whole business model came from putting YouTube videos out. I
Yeah.
attracted the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, friends, clients, people come from all around the world to come work with me. That's how you found out about me, right? From
Yeah,
someone who saw me.
Yeah.
So it all started from cameras, phones, more professional cameras. YouTube's life-changing. It's amazing.
Yeah. And something I like about Johhny is my perception of him is his kind of business has evolved. He's not kind of like, I guess you wouldn't really call yourself a businessman as such.
Well, on many levels, I don't see myself as a businessman.
Yeah.
But you could say I've run a business. People come business. So I'm laughing because I don't take any of these things too serious. But yes, I've been a businessman, but I didn't. My goal was not to be a businessman.
Yeah, exactly. That's
my
what I mean.
goal was to do what I love, and then people pay you for your art.
When I'm talking to you, when I'm watching your videos, you're not doing it purely for financial reasons.
No.
I get the impression with a lot of entrepreneurs, coaches, for them it might be about the bottom line, and that's not the impression I get with you. I get with you, this is something you love doing, and you just happen to be able to make a living doing it as well.
Well, I've got to be honest, because and that's my teaching. Sometimes I am doing it for the money.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing it for the money, I still generally care about people.
Yeah.
I think that comes across. So the business side came later on. I didn't know what I was in. I started to learn. So now I can talk to you there about business because I've been doing it for many years. But you're right, it started off as like what you're teaching. It was a passion of something I loved. I shared it with people. And then eventually, obviously, you need to pay the bills. You've got to take a woman out. You've got to eat. So people started offering to pay me, and I started to accept it. And then I've always put a lot of free stuff out, and I charge if people want to work closely with me, then they need to pay me money for that.
That's actually really interesting. So you said people wanted to pay. So rather than actually saying, right guys, charging now, people started offering to
I met
pay
my first client. I remember his name, I remember his sticking points, and he offered to pay me, and I was a bit uncomfortable at the start.
Yeah.
I think most people are. I was scared of money, scared of making it, scared of taking it. Don't want people think I'm a greedy businessman, which I later on realised I'm not. So again, all these rewards came from facing fear. And I want to say, I forgot, facing fear, but also, I can't get the words right, just being a decent person and trying to help people and actually helping them. When you help people, money comes. But I think it has to come from the right place, otherwise we're going to play all these games, going to be heavy, sickly, back to what you said. But that's just my experience. It's been true for me, and it's been true for all of the people that travel around the world to work with me and pay me.
Yeah, so for you guys watching this now, it's interesting speaking to Johhny. It shows you, that it is possible. I mean, he decided one day to face his fears, spent a long time doing that, then went on YouTube, started to make a lot of videos. Out of that evolved the coaching business where he does one-to-one coaching, runs programs. This is real. This is possible. So I think it's difficult sometimes when you're watching it and you're not in this situation and you want to be making money doing something you love, to think, it's not for me. These other guys can do it, but somehow I can't. And here's an example with Johhny, who very sort of organically just grew this whole life and a business as well along with it. So I think that's a great lesson. On a practical level, if you could give us maybe 3 tips to growing a YouTube channel, or any tips for growing a YouTube channel would be useful.
Tip number 1 is, what are your voices? Know your voices. Everyone has voices. Everyone's got inner voices that say, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, it's not possible for me, I don't deserve it, he can do it. When you know your voices, then you know who you are. Then we take action. Let's find out. If I'm not good enough to start a YouTube channel, let's start one.
Yeah.
If they don't think they're good enough to make money, let's practice making money. And then when you take action, if you keep taking action, you don't make excuses and blame your parents and blame people, and you go through the pains and the fears what you spoke about earlier, guaranteed you'll get the success. The money will come, the friendships, the following, whatever you want will come through this movement of practical action.
And that might be making a video every day, every other day. What would you recommend?
Another tip I'd say, intelligent action. So I'm not just being someone who's unintelligent and running about and just facing fear up and down. I've done that for a while. I've evolved more. I've learned from people like yourself, because I never used to consider myself much of an intellect. Then I realised I was just afraid to see that part of myself. So be intelligent about your action. If it doesn't feel right at every instant, then don't do it. But don't know the difference between when you say it doesn't feel right to when you're scared, because you're scared to suffer and grow and stuff. So intelligent action is important. When we get an intuition, you have to follow it.
It's such a key thing.
I got passionate there.
Yeah, well, it's a key thing you said. It's that fine line between, you've got to face your fears to grow, yet sometimes things don't feel right. So how do you know the difference between those two?
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want to not face your fears, kind of make excuses for yourself, but at the same time, if something doesn't feel right, then you know that it's not the thing to get involved in. I guess it's experience, really, wouldn't you say, just to find where that balance lies?
Okay, you taught me something today, great conversation. 3 truths. First truth is, sometimes we know in our heart it's not the right thing. So let's say, for example, guys go and watch pornography, and then they feel shit after, and they write to me and say, I've got this problem and I have issues with it. And it's not right, why'd you do it? You need to learn from mistakes. There's times when put the YouTube video out, do the interview. But sometimes you don't know. There's things I've done where I didn't know if it was right or not, but I just have to go and try it. And if it's not right, you'll find out. So I think we need to be intelligent and conscious enough to know all of these different areas, and to still to admit that I don't know everything, and that's why I'm here to learn and grow. Yeah. But I know enough thus far, and it's worked for me, and it's changed people's lives around the world. And again, I attract another great interview. I like doing these interviews because they used to scare me, and they still do a little bit, but I appreciate them, and I'm grateful here doing this. And this came out because I did a video on the live stream. You saw me doing that video, but how many voices do I have to get past to have the courage to do that Facebook video? But now we've created something great today. So it's also about, and I'm learning this at the moment, what you said, because we all have a part of us that we don't want to share with people because we think we're not going to get nothing back, or they wouldn't value it. But when we share and we're genuine, people love it, they appreciate it, and then we help one another. So great things come from action, intelligent action, like you said, knowing when to do it, when you're making excuses. And that's why we need great mentors, like yourself, like me. I had mentors. I had paid mentors, I had free mentors. People got no excuses if they want to do it. The only excuse is the voice in your head and the emotion or fearful feeling that it gives you. Learn that feeling, face it, practice it, get into it, practice it. Go in the boxing ring, do public speaking, write, do video blogs, practice the truth. People today are not practicing the truth from us because they're frightened. They're scared of being judged, they're scared of succeeding, they're scared of failing, they're scared of suffering. They're scared of the good, they're scared of the bad. Practice all of it, practice suffering.
That's great, it's good, really good message. And I guess you kind of answered my last question, which was
I got carried away, sorry.
I ask everybody who does these interviews their 3 sort of top tips that they've learned along their journey, or 3 things that have really stood out to them along their journey. I guess you maybe covered some of that with what you were just saying, but if you can think of anything else just to finish up the interview, that would be great.
I really think it's really important to ask for help. I think in the early days I struggled with that, my ego, and I see a lot of people struggling because they're scared to ask for help. If your friend's doing well, ask him, how did he do it? Ask him for help. Do not be proud as a man or a woman to not ask for help, because when you ask for help, the help comes. And if people can't help you, they'll say no, and then you'll find someone who does. So I think that's about people facing their fear of rejection and success. So ask for help, the help's out there.
That's a great one. Any others?
Quick little message for anyone who's struggling with mental health, because I've personally struggled it myself.
Yeah.
You're not on your own. I've battled with it myself, but if you get help and you take action, your mental health will improve and you can succeed and reach all your dreams because you have mental health problems, not despite it. So just want to share that with people.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. The kind of idea that what you once thought was your curse can actually be your blessing.
Exactly, beautiful.
Okay, it's been great doing this interview.
Thanks,
with
man.
you, Johhny.
I enjoyed it. I loved it.
I want to just tell everyone a little bit. Well, first of all, go check out his YouTube channel, Johnny Berba Coaching. You've got your 6-week transformation coaching program. Is there another one as well, which I didn't mention?
I've got a 30-day online anxiety program, which is an online course.
Online course.
And,
cool. And you're quite active on Facebook, is that right?
I'm very active on Facebook. I'm always doing live streams, shouting my mouth off. And I do live streams also on YouTube. So I'm quite active on social media.
So guys, I'm going to put all the links for those in the description below so you can follow up more on Johhny, see what he's doing. Thanks again, Johhny.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for watching, guys. Look out for the next interview and the next video, and I'll see you then.